Once upon a time, deep in the heart of the Jamaican countryside, there was a little village where everyone knew Anansi the spider and his crafty ways. But no matter how many times Anansi tricked them, the villagers never stopped falling for his schemes. Anansi was always looking for his next big meal, and he was known to do anything to fill his belly without lifting a finger. One day, as Anansi was wandering through the forest, he stumbled upon something that made his 8 legs tremble with excitement. It was a yam, but this wasn't just any yam. This yam was the size of a boulder. Anansi's eyes grew as wide as dinner plates as he stared at the enormous yam. He couldn't believe his luck. "Lord have mercy," Anansi exclaimed. "This yam can feed me for a whole year." But as Anansi rushed forward to claim the yam, he noticed something strange. The yam was glowing and there was a faint humming sound coming from it. Anansi scratched his head. He had never seen a yam like this before. Curious, he poked the yam with one of his long, spindly legs. Suddenly, the yam spoke. "Who dare touch me?" The yam boomed in a deep, rumbling voice. Anansi jumped back in fright. A talking yam? This was new! But then he thought, if the yam can talk, maybe it can help me get more food. So Anansi put on his sweetest, most innocent voice and said, "Good day, Mr. Yam. Me name is Anansi. Me didn't mean to disturb you. Me just passing by and couldn't help but notice how big and beautiful you are." The yam hummed again, this time a bit more softly. "Me big, yes. Me beautiful, yes. But me also magical. And me don't like being disturbed." Anansi's ears perked up. "Magical, you say? Well, Mr. Yam, me might have a proposition for you. How about you and me make a deal? You help me get some food and me promise to keep you company. After all, it must be lonely being such a big, magical yam in the middle of the forest." The yam considered Anansi's words. "A deal, you say? Alright, Anansi, me will help you. But you must do exactly what me say. No tricks, no funny business, of course, Mr. Yam." Anansi lied, crossing his legs behind his back. "Me always follow the rules." The yam let out a sigh. "Very well, Anansi. Here's what me going to do. Every day, me will provide you with one meal. But you must never ask for more, and you must never try to take me with you. If you do, the deal is off, and you will go hungry." Anansi agreed, but in his heart, he was already plotting his next move. So for the next few weeks, Anansi visited the yam every day. The yam kept its promise and provided Anansi with the most delicious meals he had ever tasted: roast breadfruit, jerk chicken, ackee and saltfish, curried goat. Anything Anansi desired, the yam would produce. And Anansi's belly grew rounder and rounder with each passing day. But as time went on, Anansi started to get greedy. "Why me only getting one meal a day?" he thought. "If me could take the yam home, me could eat whenever me want." One day, Anansi decided to put his plan into action. He waited until the yam had given him his daily meal. Then he pretended to be leaving. But instead of going home, Anansi hid behind a nearby bush and waited until the yam fell asleep. When he was sure the yam was snoring, Anansi crept out of his hiding place and tied a rope around the yam. He chuckled to himself as he began to drag the yam back to his house. "Tonight, me going to have a feast like no other," he whispered. But as Anansi pulled and tugged, the yam suddenly woke up. "Anansi, what you doing?" the yam bellowed, shaking the ground with its voice. Anansi froze, but he quickly thought of an excuse. "Oh, Mr. Yam, me was just taking you for a walk. You know, to get some fresh air." The yam wasn't fooled. "Anansi, you too lie. Me told you not to try any tricks, but you never listen. Now you going to pay the price." Before Anansi could respond, the yam began to roll faster and faster, dragging Anansi along with it. Anansi's legs flailed wildly as he was pulled through the forest, bumping into trees and bushes. "Lord have mercy, somebody help me," Anansi cried out, but there was no one around to hear him. The yam rolled straight into the village, and the people who saw it couldn't believe their eyes. There was Anansi, holding onto a gigantic yam for dear life, being dragged through the dirt like a rag doll. The villagers burst out laughing, holding their sides as they watched Anansi's predicament. "Look pon Anansi! Him finally get what him deserve," one villager shouted. The yam rolled right up to Miss Maddie's house, yes, the same Miss Maddie who owned the fat goat from before, and came to a sudden stop. Anansi flew off the yam and landed in a heap right at Miss Maddie's feet. Well, Miss Maddie said, looking down at the dazed spider. "Anansi, you up to you old tricks again?" Anansi tried to get up, but his legs were tangled in the rope. "Miss Maddie, me can explain. You see, dis yam is magical and—" But before Anansi could finish, the yam interrupted. "Enough, Anansi. You never going to learn, so me going to teach you a lesson once and for all." With that, the yam began to shrink and shrink, until it was no bigger than a regular yam. But instead of staying a yam, it transformed into a tiny pebble that Anansi could barely see. "From now on, Anansi, you going to have to work for your food like everyone else," the pebble said. "No more magic meals for you." And with that, the pebble rolled away, disappearing into the ground. Anansi groaned as he untangled himself from the rope. His belly, once full and round, was now empty and grumbling. The villagers laughed and teased him. He made his way home, and even though Anansi tried to laugh it off, he knew he had learned a hard lesson. From that day on, Anansi was much more careful with his tricks. But of course, being Anansi, he couldn't stay out of trouble for long. There was always another scheme, another plot, and another story waiting to be told. And so, the tale of Anansi and the magic yam spread far and wide, bringing laughter to everyone who heard it. After all, who wouldn't laugh at the image of a tiny spider being dragged through the village by a giant yam?